What if I told you that everything you believed was true? Did the claims made regarding the life of Jim Jones prove to be false? It's just incredible that Mama Jones is finally coming clean. You've been wondering for years why Jim's life ended, the way it did, why there was violence, and why someone betrayed him. Prepare yourself, as Mama Jones Justy discovered something about the criminal that you won't believe. Were Jim's closest companions, and did he simply make bad decisions that brought him to ruin? Or did his family members conspire against him in secret? Even though Chrissy Cam'ron has always been contentious, did they really intend to destroy Jim's empire completely? Mama, this is a startling new finding. The extent of the betrayal network. Jones's disclosures and Chrissy and Cam'ron's secret activities that resulted in Jim's public humiliation are all dynamite, except for a few tragic cases. The truth is, darker than anyone could have imagined. Now, let's look at this, because what you're about to discover will be a complete contrast to what you already believe. A full-fledged conspiracy is in operation. Prepare to hear what hasn't yet been revealed. Jim Jones will never look the same to you again. Mama Jones has finally spoken out after years of seeing the devastation. But realize that this isn't just an typical family conflict. The treachery we are facing is so profound and complex that it is nearly impossible to believe it is true. Jim Jones and his gang were people you knew. Jim has long been a contentious figure. He has made contentious choices, gotten into public altercations, and, of course, had a significant impact on the rap scene. However, if you've been following the story, you've undoubtedly always pondered how someone so strong and self-assured could have found themselves in this situation. No Cam'ron and Chrissy, who show up whenever Jim's life unravels. What's new? It's the same old story, right? You might be thinking, but people, the truth is finally coming out. You see, Jim's death has been a mystery for years. Relationship issues, career losses, and public humiliation were simply too much to ignore. But Mama Jones presents a bad image when she connects. Was Jim really so thoroughly and irreparably duped by Cam'ron and Chrissy? Mama Jones claims that they did, but what's the scope of this conspiracy is much more disturbing. It goes beyond simple envy or miscommunications to include power dynamics and the lengths people will go to in order to fully comprehend the seriousness of this finding. To completely comprehend everything, though Jim had everything going for him during the years when his empire was booming, including his singing career and loyalty, his life began to fall apart in a way that seemed almost deliberate. Mama Jones claims that she witnessed Jim's closest friends and relatives pulling strings behind his back, which is why she saw it all. Public personality Chrissy Lynn has always been controversial and is never held back from voicing her opinions about Jim's colleagues and workplace. However, what if her actions were not motivated by personal animosity, but rather by a larger plot to discredit Jim? The most recent details regarding Mama Jones provide Cam'ron is another well-known rap artist whose name has, let's face it, always had a significant influence on the streets. Mama Jones claims that even though Cam'ron started his own company, he is a perfect example of a power-hungry individual who will do whatever it takes to obtain what they desire. The story is not just what has been written, she stated. It's ultimate, objective, well. Let's just say that it wasn't Jim Jones's success was never as pure behind the scenes as they seemed. And Cam'ron has been playing a risky game for years. What if there is more to it than tabloids? We have witnessed anarchy over the years. What if it was planned? What if Jim's closest friends and family were pressuring him to end his life? Apart from discussing irrelevant subjects, Mama Jones is revealing the reality of how Chrissy and Cam'ron purposely changed Jim's circumstances in order to achieve their own objectives. And believe me, the more you comprehend this, the more incredible it appears. Before getting into the details of how they did it, let's first recognize why this is so crucial. Jim Jones is not just any well-known person. He plays a pivotal role in the rap industry sector, a respectable person who has influenced society. So you can be sure that if someone close to him begins to pull strings behind the scenes, there will be dire repercussions. The worst part is that this entailed high-level connections, loyalty, and betrayal in addition to business. Your perspective on these connections will be totally altered by Mama Jones's next revelation. Jim Jones felt supported by his family and close friends whom he confided in fully. So doubt and caused chaos, and it wasn't just about egos or drama. Was there something more sinister going on here? Or was he genuinely attempting to ruin Jim in order to establish his own empire? Something startling is revealed by Mama Jones. How does the fact that Cam'ron was getting ready to take Jim's place relate to Chrissy's involvement in all of this? Cam'ron's deceit of Chrissy was motivated by his need for power and control, according to Mama Jones, but Chrissy also felt duped. She felt more and more disconnected from Jim's life and work, forcing her to make choices that would threaten the very foundation he had constructed. It's now evident that this is a well-planned conspiracy that has been going on for years rather than just a straightforward friendship breakup or romantic triangle. Unexpectedly, Mama Jones claims that as the pieces come together, it becomes clear how intentional and malevolent this betrayal was. Mama Jones wasn't merely watching her son's life fall apart. Both emotional and strategic harm occurred. Every move Chrissy and Cam'ron made was part of a larger plan to gradually destroy Jim's empire. Mama Jones's scream pierced the silence like a hurricane as she watched the people he trusted ruin all he had worked so hard to build, raising the issue of how much longer Jim will tolerate this and, more importantly, how far this conspiracy will go. Years of unsaid sorrow, betrayal, and rage came to the surface as she spoke, exposing a previously hidden aspect of the tale. Family issues were subordinated to loyalty, trust, and the terrible consequences that one person's choices can have on a whole society. People are blind to the challenges that take place in the background, but because of the glitz and glamour, they feel as though they know what goes on behind the scenes. The truth about what truly happened with Cam'ron, Chrissy, and Jim must be revealed to the world. Mama Jones's voice was steady at first, but furious. Jim and Cam'ron used to be like brothers, supporting one another through good times and bad. But over time, something changed. They were breathing, getting ready to delve into the maze of treachery and deceit that had ripped Jim's life apart. As Cam'ron became more distant, Jim was thrust into the center with Chrissy's arrival. With her own agenda, everything started to go awry. Mama Jones paused, her face displaying a mixture of surprise and agony. As Jim would come home and tell me that he and Cam'ron were not on the same page and that things were becoming hot, I watched it all begin with little cracks here and there, as she continued to describe how Chrissy's influence gradually infiltrated Jim's life. Her words were impactful. Chrissy would bring it up all the time, like she was trying to stir things up. Jim and Cam'ron were obedient to her leadership and her vision of what should happen. By making Jim be all she wanted him to be in his dealings with everyone, Chrissy was ruining him without realizing it. She wanted him to become more like her vision of what a man should be, rather than the guy he was before. So she began pushing. Though when people began to alter, Cam'ron didn't just adjust. He began to view Jim as a stepping stone, a means of advancing in the game and securing his own position. He wasn't always like this. He was a loyal friend once, but loyalty only goes so far, Mama Jones remarked, shaking her head. She described the times when Jim's life started to unravel in a somber tone. Everything fell into place when Chrissy arrived. They each began tugging Jim in different directions, trying to shape him into what they believed he should be. However, no one was ever interested in learning Jim's desires, the two people he trusted the most. Chrissy and Cam'ron had taken everything from Jim until he no longer recognized himself. It wasn't the music or the business that had turned him into a shell of the guy he once was. I remember Jim just staring into space while he sat on the couch. A tear was wiped from the mother's eye. Jim was in a vulnerable situation because he was too preoccupied with his friendship with Cam'ron and his love for Chrissy to realized that they were conspiring against him and behind his back. She claimed that this was the most excruciating aspect of it. Mama Jones demonstrated the breakdown of Cam'ron's connection with Jim, the reopening of old wounds, and the formation of new betrayals. It was now obvious that the betrayal involved a long-standing friendship that had been tainted in addition to a sexual relationship. Cam'ron began to walk away from Jim. Jim stopped checking in on him as frequently as he used to, both physically and emotionally. And Chrissy was doing everything in her power to keep him away from his true pals. Jim didn't realize she was in. Charjan had experience. Jim's devotion to his family, friends, and supporters was all. Mama Jones' voice faltered slightly at the reality. When it hit the fan, he was the last person to know, and when I saw it all unfold in front of me, I couldn't stay quiet anymore. This wasn't the case. He was being tested, and no one was there to tell him the truth or show him what was really happening behind the scenes, she recalled. The focus now was on what Cam'ron and Chrissy had done to Jim, to us, to everything we had created together. The realization by Mama Jones that Jim had changed since the betrayal, and that his behavior had changed, was a significant turning point in their relationship. I had loved and cared for my child, but he was becoming someone I didn't recognize because of all the lies and dishonesty. In addition to the pressures of his job and his fame, the individuals he had surrounded himself with didn't care about his well-being. I am his mother. Therefore, loyalty can be your greatest asset, but if it is misused by the wrong people, it can also be your demise. Jim was too real for these games, too dedicated and too skilled for this. Mama Jones said in a calm but impassioned voice, "It hurt me to see him like that." Chrissy's and Cam'ron's performance was better. Jim ultimately paid the price, since everyone knew how to take advantage of his trust, love, and dedication. As the weight of the treachery grew heavier every day, Mama Jones realized that the truth had to be spoken. Not only for Jim, but for everyone impacted by the lies and deceit. Jim's right to know the truth, and the world's right to know who Chrissy and Cam'ron are what drive me, not fame or retaliation. Mama Jones was aware that the fight was imminent, but they ignored one member of the family as the drama developed and the tension increased. They also believed they could murder him and escape punishment was still going on, but she was determined to defend herself, Jim, and her family. The truth will soon after Cam'ron and Chrissy's intricate network of falsehoods caused Jim Jones's life to collapse. We must now discuss the mayhem that followed. The weight of betrayal. This was the collapse of an empire that Jim had created, not just a public argument or a celebrity rivalry. However, what if the people you have the most faith in end up being the ones holding you back? So, what should we do? Asked Jim. Learn about the fallout first. According to Mama Jones, Jim's career took a serious hit, so the emotional destruction wasn't merely for show. The harm perpetrated by his closest friends and family was the reason behind the demise of his music career, not aging or changing tastes. Mama Jones said that Jim believed Cam'ron and Chrissy were trying to push him away and were supporting him. As the entire extent of the betrayal became apparent, let's begin with the legal repercussions. The outcome was catastrophic. It should come as no surprise that legal action is taken when someone with such a high profile is being attacked in this manner, and Jim's legal team was informed. Chrissy and Cam'ron vowed to sue, but not for the usual reasons like damaged friendships or personal slights, according to Mama Jones. But here's where it gets very interesting. Mama Jones claims that Jim was thinking about filing a large lawsuit of his own to go public at one point. As they continued their power-hungry behavior, this would deplete his finances and divert his attention from them. A larger plan to trap Jim in bureaucratic red tape included lawsuits. Could there have been anything more intriguing than forcing the master manipulator, Cam'ron, to answer questions about his role in this whole mess? The specifics of the questionable acts he claims Cam'ron and Chrissy were involved in had been made public. There would have been international attention. But according to Mama Jones, Jim was apprehensive because he still thought Cam'ron and Chrissy could be spared. Mama Jones being the watchful mother that she is, saw right through his attempt to avoid making the worst. Judgments about the people who had been closest to him. We all know that hesitation ruins careers. And Jim made the worst mistake imaginable. By the time he recognized what was truly happening, the financial crisis had already occurred. But let's also talk about the money lost. When someone discredits your achievement after you've spent your entire life working for it, the financial toll and damage to your reputation and relationships are unavoidable. Jim Jones lost his personal connections in addition to his fortune. According to Mama Jones, Jim became impoverished as a result of Cam'ron and Chrissy pulling strings behind the scenes. Cam'ron and Chrissy were covertly negotiating deals that embezzled Jim's fortune while he was preoccupied with the drama. What if you were incredibly successful and rich, and then found out that your pals were stealing your money? Investments. Take part in hazardous commercial endeavors and eventually lose money. Jim went through exactly that. His business failed, his assets were sold, and his reputation suffered. The two people he trusted the most were responsible for the catastrophe and the decline in fortune. Let's not mince words, though, as Mama Jones claims that Cam'ron and Chrissy were planning Jim's murder for years. And Jim's financial stability had already been ruined by the public outcry by the time he was able to see it clearly. Due to the nature of the internet, Jim had to deal with the public's response after rumors began, in addition to the financial and legal fallout. The public was divided. Some supported Chrissy and Cam'ron, while others supported Jim since they believed his career had been destroyed. Innumerable scandals have shown us that even the smallest rumors may swiftly escalate into a full-fledged social media firestorm. Everyone was playing the blame game because they felt they had been wronged. However, as Mama Jones illustrates, Chrissy and Cam'ron were not seen as innocent by the public. They were not merely victims in the narrative. Rather, they were players in this epic struggle, fabricating their own tale to please the media establishment. Jim received a lot of the criticism for using half-truths and misleading facts. The rate at which public opinion changed and many began to doubt Jim's actions is even more shocking. Was he to blame for the whole thing? Was the criticism warranted? Was he the victim, or did he initiate this? Suggested that Jim's quick image as a failure, who was unable to balance his home and professional lives, would not be tolerated by Mama Jones. She contends that in addition to being betrayed personally, Jim was the victim of a concerted effort to harm his reputation. The final blow followed by the final blow. Mama Jones claims that the true cause of the chaos was control. Not only Cam'ron's and Chrissy's egos, you see, they weren't content to watch Jim fail. They wanted to replace him. They were motivated by a desire to start over by demolishing Jim's creation. Cam'ron wanted to regain his position as the main force in the game, and Chrissy, well, she, instead of just blaming Jim for his mistakes, think about the people who were actively working to improve his current situation. In the end, those who professed to care about Jim the most planned a deliberate plan to ruin his life rather than doing it by mistake. The worst thing of all, ladies and gentlemen, is that he is down. Given what we now know, it is unclear what this means for Jim Jones. Is it too late for him to reverse the harm that Cam'ron and Chrissy have created, or will he be able to overcome it? Despite her candor, Mama Jones Willis changing the plot. Enough, or has the damage already been done? We would like to know what you think. If you think Jim's career is doomed, or if you think he will rise above the ashes, please let us know in the comments section below. Did Cam'ron and Chrissy hurt Jim's life, or were they just manipulators? Finally, do you believe that there is more to the story, which are thief? You're touched by the seriousness of this awful reality and would like to be informed of any updates in this story. Please click the like button and subscribe to our channel. Not every hidden level has been covered yet. Don't miss the unique details that will be unveiled shortly. You can be certain that we will dive right in, even though we are only getting started. as we delve deeper into this and uncover more startling information that you won't find anywhere else. Don't forget to set your notifications so you don't miss the next surprising revelation. Keep in mind that this is about real individuals, real betrayals, and real consequences. It's not just gossip. Share your thoughts with us. Consider, who is actually at fault in this situation? The real minds causing this mayhem? Let's start the discussion in their marks below, within the framework of dispute. No one remains mute indefinitely. Even leave a comment, subscribe, and follow along for the startling revelation that follows.